November 12, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. In the pre-market, looks like it was a trading range, kind of a failed breakout, rally to the high of day, and a very gradual sell-off here, and an overshoot down here with another rally up, and then looks like it was two legs down. This is how I drew the charts today. There were a couple of setups early on, but then afterwards, there weren't really many setups. I couldn't find a way to capitalize on this big rally up. And I took one trade. It was kind of early, and unfortunately I lost on it. I didn't take any other trades, and there was another really good trade here. Unfortunately, it was not on that. There was no economic data today to really move the markets. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the trades right now. Excuse me. So this is what the pre-market looked like. It's kind of choppy, pushes down. Looked like there was a spike in a channel, and this yellow up channel looked like it fit pretty well. Go ahead and zoom in. It pushes up. I did see this in the pre-market, but I didn't want to take it just because I just don't really want to trade the pre-market. It was clearly a new high. There's only two line confirmation of this yellow up channel at this point. And so it was like first entry long, pullback, creates a second entry long right here. And a second entry long with a clean signal bar. It should be sitting right here. So I thought this was a possible trade, but it was in the pre-market. Then on the open, it has a third bounce confirmation at this point right here. So I trust this yellow up channel pretty well. It's a new high. It's a first entry long pullback, second entry long. Second entry long is a good signal bar. It's a bounce off the yellow up channel support. So that's another key entry point. It closed above the EMA, just above, and it's a great break of this green down channel, made one attempt down. So I'm debating whether this green down channel is going to try to test the lows again, or is this yellow up channel going to hold? And I saw it was one leg, two leg, and I felt like it was strong enough to hold. So it's also a 5-tick bar. So it's a really small risk, and it pushed it up, or pushes up. So it kind of breaks out of this yellow up channel at this point. It falls down this green down channel. Looks like there's a small break here, but this doesn't fit that well, so I don't really quite trust it that much. So I'm just kind of watching and waiting. And it sets this up. So actually, there's a new high here. It's a first entry long pullback, second entry long. But it also created a new low here. It's a first entry short pullback, second entry short. Right here, the second entry short fails. So right here, I'm thinking this second entry short looks like it's about to fail. It's having trouble breaking through. I mean, the EMA is cutting right through, but I'm thinking it's going to test the high of this yellow up channel. So I saw first entry short, second entry short, potential second entry short failure, first entry long here, second entry long. This could also be considered a higher low. So I entered the next bar. Next bar opens. I entered at the high of this candle and only moves 3 ticks, unfortunately, and then it flushes down and takes out my position, which I had 1 tick below here. I was debating whether I should have kept it 1 tick below this guy, but as you can see, I would have gotten taken out anyways without any chance of getting out my 1 point because it was still 3 ticks below. And I saw this and I kept thinking about it. I thought it was a decent setup, but in hindsight, I think maybe I should have skipped it because it was a doji bar here and another doji. And this is kind of indication in the area of congestion, which means there's some indecision right here. So although it looks like it's a decent setup and it's reasonable to think the price action is moving back into the yellow range, it's something I probably should have just skipped and waited for an even higher probability setup. Unfortunately, I got taken out. It's kind of a lesson learned, and just be more careful next time. And moving on. And then it moves down on this green down channel. There's no economic data to tell me why this would happen. It just did. It flushes down. This red channel doesn't exist yet. I do have this red down trend line though, among other like trend channels I was trying out to see something that would fit. I just needed more price action to evolve to trust it. It starts moving. It creates a first entry short. Technically, it's a second entry short here, rejection by the EMA. But when you see this in real time, it's an inside bar, so it's hard to really trust and know that what's really going to happen. Here you do have a confirmed second entry short, but both of these bars are still inside this bigger one, so it's just a little sketchy. Finally, it breaks out, but by the time you have this big confirmation, the trade's already been done. where the scalp's already been done. Prices start moving, it pushes up. So I have this red trend line coming down as a placeholder. And I was thinking, okay, well, there's probably some kind of, excuse me, there's probably some kind of resistance that might be seen here. It's a new low, it's a first entry short, potential second entry short. The thing I didn't really like about the second entry short is it's above the EMA, but it had a third touch rejection confirmation off this red down channel. I also saw that there was some kind of resistance here, not quite a triple test, but it does seem like it's hitting some kind of resistance here. It's a decent signal bar, and this signal bar itself is only a 5-tick risk again, similar to, I think this one was also a 5-tick risk. So I was considering it, thought it was a possible trade, but I didn't take it. By the time this flushed down, the decision's already been made. It's like, okay, well, just leave it alone. Pushes up, and then it gives you this lower high. This lower high has an EMA rejection. EMA is a little flat right now. Prices were above and below, but it does have an EMA rejection, and it's confirming the second entry short, first entry short, second entry short, one tick above, and then flush down, engulfs this doji candle previously. I like that, but I've been burned in the past by doji candles, like right here and right here. In this case, it would have worked out here because this is doji. This one didn't work out. It's hard to know for sure that this is going to work out. It does have a few things going for it, though. EMA is starting to hold prices down, even though it's flat. Decent signal bar. The other thing I had apprehension about was, am I at the low of a trading range? So I thought it was a possible trade. There's enough room before we get to the low, but it felt a little aggressive to me, so I left it alone. Turns out it worked out well. Prices then continue moving because I thought about it and I thought maybe it could have been the trading range is actually down here, but it actually fit pretty well here. So it looked like it just breached it. So this is kind of a, I don't know, an experience decision, something that I'm still working on, that maybe I see this more. Overall context is bearish, that it might have been safer than I thought, but in real time, I couldn't quite tell, so I had to leave it alone. Prices then continue moving. You have a second entry short here, but it's not a good signal bar. It's following this orange down channel pretty well. This red trend line fits well as a resistance, and making a channel, I had it kind of loosely drawn here because it only had really one touch. You could say it's a second touch, but this is just kind of iffy. For sure, you have a good confirmation at the top, bottom, a little iffy, I wasn't sure. Prices move down, hit this like 4 or 5 touch support. So I was thinking we're bottoming out, potentially looking for a pushback up. But I was also thinking maybe it's going to come back down and test the pre-market lows. So unsure right now. Just get all these other dojis right here, just telling me to stay away. Prices keep moving, and it creates a second entry short right here. So it's actually a new low here. It's a first entry short pullback, second entry short. This second entry short, it looks nice, but I called it an almost trade because the EMA right here is holding prices down with a few violations. Like there's a push up over here, a push out over here, a push out over here. The signal bar close, it's a little neutral and it's above or right at the EMA. And it's kind of moving into this pre-market support area. Those are pre-market lows. So there is enough room to get down there, but I just didn't feel this is a very strong setup. Clearly, the market is bearish at this point. So I called it an almost trade, just decided to leave it alone. I actually wanted a lower high, kind of push through like you're going to see here. It comes back up, ideally with a lower high here with enough room to scalp out. Unfortunately, it doesn't show up. You technically get a lower high here, but by that time, it's just the trade's already been done. The setup's not as strong anymore. Prices then continue chopping, starts moving up, but breaks out of this red. Let me just correct this. It's a little off. Had it a little bit higher like this, and I think I had this a little lower. NinjaTrader does that sometimes as the prices print. Your channels and trend lines get moved a little bit. That's kind of what happened there. Okay, so it goes back up, hits this, but I don't really see any clean second entries. This is only technically a first entry, comes back down. So after seeing these touches, there's a small violation here, but I trust this red down channel pretty well now. reliable. I treat it as being pretty reliable because 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, 4, 1, 2, 3. So price action is kind of moving in here now. So I'm looking for another low here to go long or another touch here to go short. So say new high, first entry long, pullback. You have a second entry long here, technically a second entry long failure. You could say that it's going to go back down and test this orange, but you could also say it already broke and tested the lows. But it could still be making one attempt and then maybe a second attempt all within the second candle. So say first entry short, pullback. In the same candle here, it's creating a second entry short. But by the time the next candle forms, I wouldn't be in the trade anymore because this would give me hesitation. But then this one flushes down. Because also I want to point out that if you try to take a short here, probably at the lows here or one tick below, you wouldn't get a fill here. And having this close like this would give me second thoughts on keeping the trade around. Unfortunately, if, excuse me. But as you can see, like it just kind of flushes down. So you don't know this is going to happen. You might have an inkling, but in real time, when you see this, I'm not thinking of going short now. Prices pushes down, kind of bounces up. And this kind of sets up what I thought was probably the best trade of the day in hindsight. It's a new low. It's a first entry short, pullback, creates a second entry short, triple test. So clearly, I don't know if I'm in a trading range at this point in time, but I do know it's 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, right to the tick. It's a break of this green up channel, one attempt up, opens here, tries to push up and close, and it fails. So it's first entry long, pullback, potential second entry long failure. It's more subtle, more hidden, but I also saw this as a new low. First entry short, clearly a confirmed second entry short, engulfs this entire candle, which is great, and closed at its low. So I thought this is actually probably a really decent setup. And there's enough room from here down to low, plus a close below the EMA. Even though the EMA is flattening, it's clearly bearish. So this is another good sign. There's a few things going for it. Looks like I would have, if I entered, I would have put it at the lows, got filled here, and then here likely would have gotten the scalp. Then prices continue moving, breaks out of what I thought was a trading range, but it's not a valid range anymore. Pushes down on this orange down channel, breaks out of the bottom of this red, but there's no clean way to enter this at this point. So you just have to ride this out and wait. Makes a new low, first entry short, creates a second entry short right here. So it's a new low, first entry short, pull back, second entry short, new high, first entry long, pull back, yet to be confirmed second entry long. So here it creates the second entry long and it creates a confirmed failed second entry short. Now, when you see this, it's a little premature to think, okay, I'm going to go long because yes, there's an overshoot of this red down channel. So you're thinking maybe it's going to push back in and test the other side. But there's also this orange down channel. It broke, made one attempt down. There could be a second attempt down. So even though there's a second entry long about to create and a failure on the second entry short, I wanted a higher low confirmation if this actually plays out. So it actually does confirm. It confirms the second entry long, failed second entry short. Too early still for me to believe it's going to reverse back up. So I wanted a higher low confirmation. Plus the signal bar wasn't that enticing. So you don't really get a higher low till about here, but you don't really know it's a higher low. Had this candle actually been green or just been less strongly pushing down like this with a bounce, I would have trusted a higher low here. So here you have a confirmed higher low, but this is an inside bar. You have a second inside bar, which is just telling you, okay, it's a little bit indecisive. A third inside bar. So at this point, prices are clearly starting to trend up. I don't have this yellow up channel established yet, so I can't really say there was another key entry point right here, but I do know there's 3 bullish inside bars to this one big move. So in 2000 trades, this occurred and it took 2,000, so it takes 6,000, ticks to try to break out of this. And that's telling me something. It's like telling me just be extra cautious. Finally, it breaks out, but I wouldn't have wanted to take a trade there anyways. Starts pushing up and starts rallying up. There was no clear way for me to find a clean entry. I mean, technically, you might say, actually, you don't have a second entry long here. Just kind of keep pushes up. And I find this yellow up channel at this point, it looks like it fits pretty well. You do have a second entry long here. Unfortunately, I didn't like the signal bar. Breaks out. So I'm expecting a test of this yellow up channel, and it achieves it right here. Then it starts moving on a more shallow green up channel. No clean second entries that I could see. I'm clearly not looking to go short because this whole thing is reversing now. This has recovered more than 50% of this entire span. So to think it's going to come back down and test the lows of this red is out of the question. More likely you're going to keep pushing higher, but you need a clean second entry to do that, and I didn't see one. Technically, you have a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. I just wanted this because if you zoom in, this makes the same high, and this was just one tick below and closed just slightly below. If this actually closed to the high and matched it, it would change my impression of the setup. Or if this came down, touched the EMA and bounced up, it would also change the impression. But since this is just kind of floating right next to the previous candle, I just didn't really like that setup. So even though there's a second entry long here and it worked out, I wasn't that keen on, jumping on something like that. And prices continue moving up, breaks below the EMA now, actually closes a couple candles below, and it kind of pushes back up, and it's just getting very choppy. It moves in, looks like these two legs. There's a new low here, first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short that's hidden, but this isn't a really enticing setup because the closed doji, it's far from the EMA. It's already pressing toward the localized low. There's nothing really here. Bounces, so I'm thinking it might be on this yellow down channel. Technically, you have a new low, first entry short. You have a second entry short here, but you don't know you have a second entry short till this one confirms it. And by that time, it's already too late. So for something like this, I would be looking for a lower high or a first entry long, second entry long failure. But keep in mind, this is already at 12:42, so there's only 18 minutes left in the day. So I wasn't that excited to try to look for a trade, to try to hunt down and try to recover any of my losses today. Then prices just kind of move into the last 10 minutes and it gets choppy into the close. So that's kind of how I saw the charts today. I took one trade. I thought at the time it was a reasonable setup, but unfortunately it kind of came back and bit me. In hindsight, which is always 2020, there was this doji and this doji, so I should have been more cautious and left it alone. But I was thinking, there's a break of this very strong yellow up channel, probably going to move back in. I like this as a pretty decently strong signal bar, but it is doji. And even if this is a doji and I was okay with it, I have to keep in mind that 2 candles or 3 candles before, there was another doji. And these candles are just kind of side by side, kind of chopping sideways. So that should have given me pause. Unfortunately, in real time, I saw it, I got excited, entered, moved one tick below my exit, so I never got there and it flushed me out. So lesson learned. Hopefully that was helpful.